Welcome to Parev TV. We are joined by Mr. Sarkis Jebejian, a lawyer and a member of the AGBU Central Board of Directors. Today, February 27th, Mr. Jebejian, you chaired a very interesting virtual edition of the 91st AGBU General Assembly. It lasted exactly an hour and a half, just as was publicized. It had in attendance people from over 30 countries, which is really historic, and we're very proud of that. And through technology, you were able to have live translations into 4 languages. This is the first time I ever see an Armenian organization providing this type of service. The assembly is held every 2 years and covers a variety of reports, activities, financial reports, election of officers. You were in the front center of these General Assembly. You chaired it, so it is very fair for me to ask you to capsule highlights so that people who were not able to follow the deliberations maybe can get an idea of the important decisions and important deliberations that took place today. And thank you again.
No, thank you, Vartan. And those are all actually very good questions, because obviously the General Assembly, which we do once every 2 years, and this was our 91st General Assembly, is one of the most important events in the AGBU calendar. And not just because of the formal elements, but it really is the opportunity where a lot of our membership, a lot of our leadership gets together in one of our communities. 2 years ago was in Paris. This last fall, it would have been in Armenia had circumstances not been the way they were. But in the last decade and a half, we've done it in Syria and Buenos Aires. So this for us is beyond the actual formal part of it. Is a really it's part of the spirit of the AGBU, and the fact that we could not do it this year in person in one of our communities was a really big deal for us. And we knew we had to do it, and we were actually thrilled by the fact that the virtual event, which, as you said, went as well this year. We had hundreds and hundreds of people from around the world, and literally, like I said in my opening remarks, literally from Los Angeles all the way to Korea and countries all in between. We actually had people participating who never would have been at a General Assembly. So we actually learned a lot from this that we will take to the next years.
It really went seamless, and all the reports were so positive by those who participated. Everybody was so passionate about what they had to report. And we all know the difficulties that we all experienced this past year. And it was mentioned throughout the deliberations, the COVID, the blast in Beirut, and of course, the 44-day war and all the challenges we face. What are some of the challenges AGBU faces these days?
Well, look, this was the year as an AGBU member that I can say this was the year that we really felt we need AGBU, right? Because as Armenians, we're facing existential issues, and what we can do to sort of support Armenia and support the situation in Armenia. I think today was an amazing opportunity for all of us to sort of reflect on the scope and the breadth of activities at AGBU. Even I, as a AGBU member for life, and I've been on the board for about 15 years. When you watch about our global activities and some of the things that were reflected in the videos, it really reminds us that we really are doing something on a global basis and a very comprehensive basis. But it also reminds us about the obligation we have to, in fact, do more, because we're facing right now really an existential moment in the history of our nation.
Sarkis, one thing I was very impressed, and it was very important that you mentioned, I did not know 19 years have gone by under the leadership of Berit Setrakian, and you kind of asked people to give him a standing ovation, which he deserves. That was really something very, and next year will be 20th anniversary. Hopefully the COVID will be behind us, and we will rightfully celebrate that. But you know, the bold actions of the AGBU over the past century plus, visionary of unparalleled leadership. And I was very happy that Beard Satrakian brought this up because for me, you know, many times we speak about Beard Satrakian, then we think of Louis Simon who preceded him, etc. But when you look at the overall history of the AGBU, you really see these huge, powerful individuals who stepped up and did what had to be done. And that is, I think, the trademark of the AGBU.
Well, I agree. And, you know, in our president's remarks today, he actually reminded us of something very important that, you know, our founders, Boris Nubat and others, did not really create HBU as a charity or as an educational institution. You know, HBU was really a national institution for the Armenian people when they didn't have a country. And it was really meant to, like I said in my remarks today, to safeguard the heritage of the Armenian people, but also the prosperity of the Armenian people. And it's, in fact, interesting that 115 years later, we're back to our original mission, which is, you know, we have, and Bear said it very well in his remarks today, where he talked about, you know, the beginning from Boris Nubat and Arsha Karagosian and Alek Manukyan and the things that the HBU leadership has done over the years. And we feel like we're right back there today where we have to speak out to really safeguard the mission of our organization, which really is our national identity and our national heritage. So absolutely.
You know, I have had many chances of Beard Satrakian, and one of the things he said, we should do away, not do away, but I know I understood what he said. He said we should bring more professionalism into what we do. And I think AGBU with its center in New York has brought that professionalism. What was very interesting for me is to see the young talent we have on stage. You're a young talent. Hi Garian, young talent. Ani Manugian, young talent. Lena Sarkisian, young talent. I'm sure you know the others. And it is so important to have also the women participate. Many times we look at organization and we see images, a sea of men only sitting there, an old generation, and you know what I'm saying. And that I think is a very, very important thing for the AGBU.
But I will tell you, Vartan, we obviously when the event ended, Berj and some other members of the executive committee and I met at the HBU office today. And the thing we, in fact, were the most proud of was when we added up how many members of our leadership and our chapters from how many different countries, and board members, chapter chairmen. We actually talked about how one of the most meaningful things about today was the diversity among geography and people.
Yes.
That participated. And we actually were very, very proud of that. For me, that was one of the most meaningful parts of today, that we actually showed this is a global and pan-Armenian organization. So you're totally right. For us, that was one of the great victories of today.
As you said, it's one of the great victories. Let's not forget the AVC, the virtual college, and Yervan Zoria's participation. He really did a good job today. He really did. He also deserves a standing ovation.
Let me tell you, I was nervous for weeks about a 90-minute virtual General Assembly, and as you mentioned, we had board members and committee members and speakers from, I think I said today, from at least 10 different countries and multiple continents, and I was actually very nervous. How's this all going to work? It worked seamlessly. I said in my closing remarks, it was totally due to the AVC. I was corrected by another board member afterwards, where I should have pointed out it was due to the AVC and all AVC members from Armenia. And I said, this has been a big investment of AGBU over the last decade, AVC. And today we saw the result of that investment. The fact that we were able to produce a 90-minute, multi-country, multi-continent General Assembly, I think seamlessly. There were no hiccups.
Seamless.
It was all seamless. And by the way, we had not rehearsed. We just had an agenda and everyone was told what to do. I think today was an example of you invest in our talented people and in the project, the returns will be amazing. Today for AGBU, that was the greatest moment when we saw the result of, because we made a very long commitment to ABC because we thought it would be something amazing, and today was the proof of that.
You know, a few minutes ago, I mentioned some young talent, and I forgot to mention Arda Haratunian. Obviously, she is among that group of young people. Many times we look back and say, Mezmevich Obidika. You know, there's a big question. We all have that, which is a good question, Mezmevich Obidika. But let me go into another very important thing about the AGBU. Whenever I think of the AGBU, I think of the trust it enjoys, the confidence it provides, the skills it provides, and the transparency it provides. And I was very impressed. I think it was Haig Aryan who answered a question or two about the finances. How did the AGBU give $5 million when they need the money? And I think the response was very, very important, very, very to the point. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. In fact, I was sitting in this chair with this exact same background. I remember the board phone call on a Sunday morning. It was either at the end of September or early October, in the early days of the war. I was literally sitting in this chair where Haig and Berge and Nazareth and Arda and multiple board members, we were actually on a Zoom just like this. I was literally sitting in this chair and the war had just started and the humanitarian need was coming and was dire. And, you know, no one talked about our balance sheet or our income statement or how much money we had in the bank. That was not the conversation. The conversation was, we have to do something that inspires the community. And Haig raised his hand and said, we should announce a big matching campaign. And yes, Haig was right. Like, it's not AGBU's, right? We didn't talk about, well, do we have the capital? Do we not have the capital? We talked about, we have to lead and do something symbolic because this is a existential crisis and it's a moment that we have to lead. So Haig's comments were exactly right, but I was literally sitting in this chair the moment that decision was made, and it was the right decision, because if we don't lead at that moment of crisis, that's our absolute responsibility.
You know, there's an Armenian saying that it says, I think it says, "Bedraper zara shat kargnevi bedraper zarivra." The fruit tree gets a lot of stones because there's a lot of fruit, and many times we don't see AGBU in the way it should be seen. And I think these virtual, whether it's interviews or virtual discussions, can attract more people and inform more people, as you very well know. And what I like in the AGBU is the fact that it has the leadership that has vision and courage. Courage is absolutely important. And it's not enough to have a vision. You have to act. And I think AGBU has been acting very forcefully, very ahead of the game. Before the results are clear, AGBU makes its move. And later on, of course, people follow. It's easy to follow, but to lead, it's not so easy. What is your kind of, not closing remarks, but what do you think is your message for the younger generation? Because we are, and the AGBU is interested in the young people.
No, it's a great question, and I'll refer to something that obviously, as you saw, I was in the office today, Berge was in the office, Haig and Nazareth, and a number of us were in the office today, and we obviously got together after the meeting, and you know, one thing that was interesting for all of us to talk about was um, we sort of made a pact among ourselves that, you know, a lot of what was discussed today about the history of our organization and the history of our organization is really a national movement and a
Yes.
movement to build the prosperity of Armenia, that maybe that is not so known in our communities, and people have sort of not been exposed to the breadth and the scope of our organization. So we actually took it upon ourselves as a challenge to say we should in fact inform our communities about
Absolutely.
we're not just a narrow base. We're not. We are an educational institution, but we're not just an educational institution. We are a social institution, but we're not just a social institution. But to really educate our communities about, we really are an organization that now, like I said in my remarks today, for 115 years, has really been focused on building our national interest. And we're now back to our original purpose because our national interest is really at risk because of global events. And so we actually feel that the original purpose that Boris Nubat built AGBU, in fact, is more important today than ever before. And we actually feel not just responsible, but empowered to really focus on that again.
Sarkis Jebejian, I really thank you for giving us the time. I know we could speak about the disaster in Lebanon. We could speak about COVID. There are so many other areas. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up?
No, like I said, I think we are now intensely focused on. We are very focused on our homeland because, as Baird said in his remarks today, our homeland in Armenia really is the most important part of safeguarding our identity, and accordingly, we are very, very focused on that. We are committed. We are doubly committed to doing what's required and really trying to be, as much as we can, a positive force in improving the situation in Armenia. And like I said in my opening remarks, and in continuing our 100-year plus partnership with the Holy See of Etchmiadzin.
Very correct.
AGBU's partnership with the church is not a matter of the last few decades or 5 decades. Literally, it's from the beginning of AGBU. The church and AGBU have been partners for over a century, and we know that the church has really been the most important organization in safeguarding our heritage, and we continue to be committed to that. And so our focus is on our homeland, on our church, and really our primary goals, like I said, of safeguarding our heritage and encouraging the prosperity and the social and cultural and educational well-being of Armenians everywhere in the world.
You know, Tarakian did a beautiful job in terms of reminding us that in the most difficult time in the history of the Armenian people during the communist period, AGBU was the one who opened doors, whether it's through Gulbenkian, whether it's through Karakozian, I don't know the names now, but it was a very important series of events he listed. And I think that should be highlighted. And that is something the young people should know as to what AGBU had gone through over a century of existence.
Absolutely. Like I said, that was our president's speech, and those 4 or 5 paragraphs really were one of the most important parts of today, which was to think about that in different times in our history, we've not been a narrow organization. You know, we've had educational missions, cultural missions, humanitarian missions, in fact, religious missions.
Sure.
But the overall strategy has always been the well-being of our nation and the safeguarding of our heritage. And at times it has been, as you said, you know, it has been our in the darkest days of communism, our partnership with the Holy See of Etchmiadzin, or in very difficult times, our aid to people in the Middle East, or in other times, the providing support to Armenians who were emigrating back to Soviet Armenia from the Middle East. And so this has all been really our fundamental mission, is the promotion and safeguarding of our national identity and our national heritage, and we will continue to do that.
You know, again, I'd like to say, when you bring up names of people, you forget some people. Like I forgot Nazareth, and I forgot maybe some others. But all the young generation comes like a bouquet of flowers, and they really, what is not very clear to us, when we look back 10, 20 years ago, Sarkis, you will understand what you are doing or what you have done. You will be able to connect the dots. And for me, besides thanking you, I'd like to echo once again, whenever I speak about the AGBU, I bring it up as an Armenian writer years ago had called it Pokrik Handrabeduchun. It's a baby republic. It is a very, very important name for AGBU to be heard and used to. Anything else for the seventh time, wrapping up? Anything in closing?
No, I'll just say the last thing I said is like the Pokrik Handrabeduchun is good. You're talking about different board members, different people who have provided very valuable input, advice, expertise to AGBU. I'll go back and say every person you're talking about is a person that our president, Berit Satrakian, recruited to AGBU.
Beautiful.
Identified as a person that he wanted added. So Berit, throughout his presidency, really has been highly focused on collecting expertise, collecting commitment, collecting really true believers. And I think in a lot of ways, because today was a different kind of presentation, because we were able to sort of assemble people from many countries and many continents and present it to people from many countries and many continents. In some ways, today was sort of a highlighting of, frankly, what we who were involved have been seeing for several decades. It sort of highlighted it all at once today. So it's great that was observed.
Sarkis Jebejian, thank you very much for your time, for your comments, and amazing job you did today in carrying out the chairmanship of the General Assembly of the AGBU. Thank you and congratulations.
Martin, great seeing you. Thank you.
Great seeing you. Bye.